over to you.
Right, thanks, Mr. Chair. Morning, Councillor.
Sorry, I should get in there. We have asked of Dave and Rick just a quick oversight on the situation in Paronga, Otaronga, that area. But that's just an update.
So what I was going to say is we're prepared to talk to the Adapting to Natural Hazards and Risks programme. We did talk about this 2 weeks ago at the workshop, so we've covered quite a bit of depth. So I'm happy to talk to that, and we've prepared some slides, but asked that they're taken as read. We have prepared some information for you around the Otaronga event, and that's an ongoing event. And so I've got Rick with me, who was regional flood controller for the weekend. So I guess it's an option to spend some time on the programme update and the flood event, or just move to the flood event direction.
Yeah, go with the flood event. Yeah,
we'll go straight to that. Okay. All right. As I guess you're aware, I think the first thing to acknowledge is this event is an ongoing event. We expect it to be ongoing for the next 5 days at least, from a flood response perspective. I guess the most important acknowledgement is the fact that we had a fatality as a result of flooding events. So, you know, our thoughts and sympathies are with family and friends. And we'll try to understand more about the nature of that event as we work with the emergency services. So I don't have an update on the event of the fatality. I guess just to give a framework before I hand over to Rick, the response has been pretty significant. We've had about 20 or so WRC staff responding to the event. So that's supporting GEC and the emergency operation centres. And they're under quite a bit of pressure. And obviously over the weekend, that was significant. We have ongoing support through the catchment river teams as well. So there's a large number of WRC staff deployed still. So we're having to manage the BAU and the emergency event, as you could imagine. I think encouragingly, the floodwaters are receding. So we're seeing some respite there. Obviously, a lot of damage and a lot of recovery work still to take place. We have had some geotech support. We've had helicopters up to look at some of the conditions of the river channels, the catchments, and particularly landslip areas. We can give you some information on that, but again, we're still gathering intel. We're also mindful that, I guess, there's continued requests from the district councils, particularly Otaronga District Council, as well as Waipa, for ongoing support from WRC staff to go into the emergency operating centres. So we're doing okay at the moment, but those staff are under quite a bit of pressure. So just wanted to recognise the need for ongoing support around the region. What I'll do, I'll hand over to Rick. Rick, as I mentioned, was regional flood controller. I think it's important to just understand the lead in and what Rick was seeing and how the team was looking at the situation prior to the Thursday, Friday main rainfall event. And then Rick can talk through some of the technical aspects that we've understood since that.
Thanks, Dave. And yeah, Morena. Is it Morena still? Yes, it is. It's all been a bit of a blur the last few days. So yeah, thanks very much, Dave. Now, look, please, I'll go through and keep it as simple and brief as possible, but happy to answer questions as we go through and also be guided in terms of what we're talking for. So as Dave alluded to, like we do have quite a comprehensive flood response process through our regional flood response team. We have a regional flood coordinator, which is on this one was myself, and a regional flood liaison officer as well. So we have 2 on call. We work very closely with local civil defence, our zones, so local civil defence is with our territorial authorities and group civil defence as well. What we do is we aim to alert and to inform prior to any rainfall event, as we did for this one. All of our intel and information about the weather comes from Met Service. Met Service is New Zealand's official severe weather forecaster. All of our decisions come from what Met Service is providing us. And from a regional council perspective, we provide the so what will this mean for us? So for this event, we had a teleconference where we first alerted our zones, our territorial authorities, civil defence. We have quite a comprehensive email distribution list to make sure we capture everyone in key areas. And so we started those communications off on Thursday, the 12th of February, as well as that we initiate a flood room. We moved that to monitoring on the Thursday as well, based on the Met Service input. So we based our scaling up based on the heavy rain watch that Met Service provided that covered the whole of the region. Now we talk with Met Service. We have a very good relationship with Met Service, and we talk regularly through these types of events. This event was a little bit different in terms of the heavy rain watch was due mainly to the significant convective system. So rather than having constant rain at a high over a longer period of time, it was a culmination, or there was the awareness that this event was convective, it was thunderstorms, it was heavy downpours, and the other key thing is the uncertainty. With thunderstorms, you don't know where, you don't know when, and while there is some indication of how much, and Met Service provided that, the accumulations over a period of time is very, very difficult to understand. And obviously, one of the key things that we need to understand is the potential for multiple convective storms, thunderstorms occurring in the same place. That's what happened. And so during the Friday, so we had a teleconference at 11 a.m. Friday morning. We then, to give an update, by then the rain had just started to fall, and we decided to have another update with all of our stakeholders at 5 p.m. On the Friday morning, Met Service had upgraded the Coromandel Peninsula to a heavy rain warning. Just the Coromandel Peninsula and some of our, the Bay of Plenty as well, which touches some of our eastern catchments. And again, talking with Met Service to understand why they did that was primarily due to some of their models showing that of the potential of quite high accumulations on the Coromandel Peninsula. As the event unfolded and we had the 5 o'clock meeting, we were able to show, and I'll show you some of this information now, that we have using HydroNet and using Met Service data to get a more spatial representation of where the rain has fallen. Now, this HydroNet system, which I'll show you, and I've mentioned in previous council meetings, is still it's a proof of concept, but we are starting to use the information to help inform us. It's not operationalized yet, but it soon will be. And so we're able to show where the rainfall accumulations had been occurring, and we could see quite clearly that they were forming around the Otahonga area. So we raised that. As we went through the event, the rain kept on falling. We started to get some alarms, automated alarms from our rain gauges to say that we had reached 60 millimeters in 3 hours. That's reasonably significant. We're able then to look at our rain gauges and get some more detailed information. At about 5:30, I rang the local civil defence to say, and my words were, "You're getting hammered." We could see from the information we had coming through, both from the rain radar, both from our rain gauges, that there was a significant amount of rainfall occurring. And so, yes, and so the local civil defence, we work very closely with them. We have very good relationships with them. They were starting to get impact reports, and they were going out to try and to assess that. At around about 6:30, quarter to 7, we had a call from Met Service to say that they were about to issue a severe thunderstorm warning for a particular area, exactly where we had seen the accumulations occurring within the Otahonga area. That raised concerns. And so it was great that Met Service provided that information, that intel. I immediately set up an urgent meeting with local civil defence, group civil defence, and Met Service as well to come in on that call. And at that point, we decided for civil defence to issue an EMA, Emergency Mobile Alert, due to the amount of rain that had fallen, and on then the thunderstorm warning that occurred. The EMA was around the thunderstorm warning area that Met Service Met Service had then issued that goes out to all of your Met Service apps. So anyone with the Met Service app will get those notifications, as well as then the EMA, which will subsequently sent. So that's where we got to, and so now what I'll do is to provide some information on how much rain has fallen. I'll just share my screen. I'm happy to, while I'm doing that, to answer any questions if you have them. All right, so just wondering what to come up with. There we go.
Sorry, just
Yeah.
to interrupt. Can I just check that all councillors got the site reps and they're coming through? Everyone saw them on their emails. Cool. No, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, and what I didn't mention was that we activated flood. We moved flood room from monitoring to activated once the Waipa zone had activated their flood response, and that's when you start getting sit reps. Up until then, all the information comes through flood room, and at this, when we move from de-escalated to monitoring, that's when I send, with RFC sends out an email to all councillors to say, hey, we have initiated flood room to monitoring based on these conditions, and that's where your intel comes from. So what we see on the screen here is HydroNet. So I've mentioned this before. This is still a work in progress. We're under a 2-year pilot project with the with HydroNet, hydrologic and water technology. I need to emphasise that all the information that you see is derived from Met Service. So this is all Met Service information, and this system here is to provide us with a way that we can make decisions and we get better clarity on where rainfall has fallen. Now, we're showing the similar information here. We just show different gauges here. But what I'm going to do is focus on this one here. I'm not going to go too much in depth with this one. And what I can show here is this is the rainfall distribution. And I'll just sort of zoom in so you can sort of see some areas through here. So Otorohanga, as it will come up very shortly, is around here. It should come up very shortly. Background there. It's taking a bit longer. Anyway, this is Otorohanga here. What we see here, I'll show you the lead. Oh, there we go. There is Otorohanga. So just to look at the scale here, so red and getting that sort of browny color, that's more rain. The yellowy, greeny, bluey, that's less rain here. Right, now I'm going to click on, now this is our rain, these are our rain gauges. So this is a period over, you see here, from the 12th to the 14th of February. So it covers the event. What I'm going to do now is this is Otorohanga here, but I'm going to click on this point here. And what this shows, I'm just going to click on here. And so here you can see the event. Now, the spatial data you see here is provided by Met Service every hour. We get this every hour, and it's based on rain gauge. So rain radar information is augmented and calibrated to rain gauges and also some satellite information as well. So currently, this is our best understanding on the spatial variance or the spatial and intensity rainfall that we have. This is available for the whole of New Zealand, and we've just got it for the Waikato area. There's not too many councils who are able to access this information, I must say. We are one of the few that can actually get this information. And now we have a way that we can utilize it. But what you can see here is for that site there is that you can see that these hourly intervals here reached up around 40 millimeters per hour, which is what Met Service had forecast. The key thing though is the accumulation. So over that 2-day period, but primarily from, and you can see the dates just here. So primarily from that's Friday at 3, that's Friday at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and by 9 o'clock it was over. Very, very intense. So that was quite telling. So over that very, very short period, and again, this is probably the peak of the storm here at that location. You can see that it was quite significant. I'm going to move out of here in terms of rainfall is one statistic, but it's the relativity of the rainfall and what does that actually mean for an area in terms of the frequency of that occurring. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to fix that.
Just while you're finding that, a comment, just my own observations at home was some of biggest damage I've had over the 30 odd years I've been on my farm was just the intensity, and it wasn't over an hour, but we had a massive downpour. We had 20 mils in 10 minutes, and that did more damage to our farm than the days I've had, hundreds of mils.
So I could just interrupt here, Rick. I'm not denigrating it, but we are conscious of time.
Yes.
How much more we've got?
If I can just show you this one.
Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, I'm really interested in this. I think it's some.
Yeah, I know you are.
All right. So this is now. I showed you before, but some information on rainfall numbers. But the key information really is around the frequency and the size of the event. So this is the 6-hour duration. So over that time period of the rain event, this is the 6-hour duration, and it shows the exceedance. So your average return interval. So that's the frequency of some of these, of the size of the storm event. If you look at those numbers there, this entire area, that's that browny red color, that's a frequency of 250-year average return interval. Now, that's the max that we show. And and 250 years. So again, just looking at those areas through here, and if I just flip over to Otorohanga, you can see here that Otorohanga, again, over a 6-hour period, 123 odd millimeters of rain, which for that location equated to at least a 250-year return interval.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Gary McGuire's got a question for you.
I don't know if it's a question or a statement.
Oh, only questions today.
What would I do if I just happened to be in Otorohanga at 8 o'clock on Friday night, which I was? I was driving in from the north and was right in the thick of it, and it was pretty interesting. So, no anymore. No, I was on my way to a wedding in New Plymouth. I'm asking as a council.
So that's just more a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think when we're looking at an evolving situation like this, the fact that it was a type of event that came about very, very quickly, and when information starts coming in, we start to try to disseminate that information, and we do have processes. We did issue the EMA. I think there was about 8 p.m. that came out. So look, what do you do? I think this is where you need to really understand and prepare your own self and make sure that you and your family are prepared for these types of things. But the tricky thing is, well, the warning. How do you know that this is coming? And I think this is one of the tricky things that we have in terms of our current New Zealand weather forecasting system, and some of the learnings that we'll have. This isn't the first time it's happened. We've have other areas around New Zealand that have had similar things where these types of events do come across very, very quickly. We're a small little island in the middle of we have very high, we have topographic changes, we have orographic rainfall, we have these convective systems that can be quite. I would just like to say that when a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, that has the same relevance as a red heavy rain watch. The guidance and potential impacts in those thunderstorm warnings are quite clear. These are potentially impactful to both property and people.
Okay, thanks, Rick. So we've got a question from Tipper, and then from Noel, and then we need to move on. So I'll go to you, Dave. But I would say really, really interesting, and a lot of us are interested because we've been in this field, Rick, and maybe we can catch up with you sometime later and have a chat. Okay, Tipper.
Firstly, I'd like to thank and note the paper and firmly recommend that this is something we take to full council and come up with a more fulsome conversation about our response, because I'm very aware that the sector is acutely aware that it must be seen as responding, given Tauranga and all the other councils. So I just wanted to ask you, what is the new awareness in local government of must-dos for councils, not just regions, but to TAs? What support do we need to be lending them? That's one of my questions. The other two are, I get your comments, but it assumes that the common sense of this generation have experienced the flood. And many, for example, where I am, haven't. All our grandparents and parents experience floods. We know you don't drive in flood waters. Just it's not a good idea, but we keep seeing people do it. So I'm wondering if we can push to central government some of that education purpose, because there's just whole sets of New Zealand that don't know how to respond. But my real question is, in an event, what can we expect the response to be from civil defence, the follow-up to be from council, and then the everyday after that to be? I have a nephew who is in the sector. They go and dig people out, dig. He's a digger driver, basically. They go in after everybody's left, and there's normally still a distraught family there, and they get no support, no wraparound for their role. So I'm really, given that this is not extreme anymore, it's every summer. Aye. So me aro tātou, but thank you for the work you do. So more to what is the local government sector, raised awareness doing for us, and then that whole responsibility for public ed, because I don't think it's landing well enough myself if people are still driving through floods.
Thanks, Tata.
Yeah, so in terms of the regional sector, and we've since Cyclone Gabrielle, the North Island severe weather events, the sector has been liaison, working together and liaising with the agencies around what we need to do better. And so that work is still in progress. There's been some improvements, but there's still other things that we need to be working on together, and particularly around rain radar, rain gauges. The technology now is that when we are able to understand where rain is falling, understand what does it look like next is key for us. And the tool that I have in front of you here is again a tool that not many other regional councils have. We've been quite fortunate to be able to use it to get this tool. So that's where we're working at as well. Once the information from Met Service and Central, become better and more refined, we are right there to be able to utilise it in events like this. So there's definitely more work to be done in that sector.
Okay, thanks for that. So Noel and Ben will bring your question in when Dave's coming. Okay, Noel.
Yeah, both Tipper and I and Mikhail and now Gary have done the role as on the group. Gary asked a very important question. What's a councillor's role? I think to save time, it should actually come back to council, because actually it's don't interfere. Quite frankly, is you can be the eyes and ears and feed information in, but you don't get involved and cross over the professional's role. So maybe we need all to be sort of reminded of what our role is, and the group or whomever will contact you soon enough if they want some advice or some assistance from you.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Can I just comment on that? Because
hey,
no, because that's important, fellow Keith, and is I got a phone call yesterday, and just following up on that, we're from a constituent in flood area, and I said, just call the council, and they said they did call the council, and the council gave them my number. They said phone me, so I think that was just totally unacceptable. So I went there, but that's doing what the job was, and somebody at council said phone Gary.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys need to take that on board. Okay. So we'll hand over to you, Dave, and I apologise. It's been really valuable, but we need to crank on.
Yeah. Sorry, if I through the chair. Just Councillor Mahuta just raised the second point. Don't know whether we answered the second point very well, but we workshop on the management structure and process. So I think a number of people have already been through it, but that is an opportunity to dive into that subject. So that will save some time today. Thanks to Rick. Yeah, it's an event that we'll continue to learn from, work through the days. I think for me, it kind of turns me back towards the purpose of the program, the important. What you just saw there in terms of intelligence and information is coming through as a result of projects that we took to go. Those projects are producing high quality information, not just for. We also talked about modelling and water resource modelling. We've done some modelling of the reservoir at Tatahi. Understand what impact that might have on any properties around that area. And these are real-time tools and valuable services that we offer to both emergency services and civil defence. So that sketch that Rick's just shown in there is really an illustration of how water resource modelling and the tools that will start to show some real, give people a event. This is the nature of that event. Consequences. Then we can do evacuate in time. So that's a plug for the program, but the program is not just a theoretical exercise. It's to deliver it. Another big part of this is the adaptation. I recall a graphic I showed 2 weeks ago, which talks about the different kinds of emergency response part. Many communities totally rely on have any flood. There's no info. So you know, that's an area of the program for the future that we really. How do we education, as we mentioned earlier? How do we ensure that we've got like structure in place to respond and help to respond? The adaptation planning process is obviously going to drive us to our infrastructure differently, and one of the key parts of the program is to make sure we've got clear prioritization. So we'll be involved in a workshop in April, and we'll to talk about the framework for how we prioritize across the region. Hauraki Plains are more advanced, I think, than any of the other district councils. That's because I've spoken to every one of them, understood where they're at on the journey. So my take is we don't have a lot of maturity within the region. I think it is important to recognise that our role is going to be quite fundamental to help through that process, particularly from a science perspective, technical information perspective, to resource modelling and community engagement. And Rick and the team spend quite a bit of time talking to in conjunction with the district council. So that's the future, I think, that we're looking at. The adaptation planning will require ongoing resource. My estimation is it's manageable if we prioritize. If all 11 TAs at the same time, it's going to be really. Extent of the Hauraki Plains program is about 1,700 hours purely for resting. So of a total of about 2,800 hours, the majority of the time is. There's quite a proportion of time, about 7 or 8% required from science and policy, and about 2 or 3% from RUD and others. So there's ongoing demand across WRC to provide resilience and adaptation. So that's kind of the future. The report talks a little bit to the prioritization framework and people. I think I might just leave it there and some questions.
Okay.
I've gone a lot to you.
Thanks for that. So we've got Ben first.
Yeah, just picking up Tipper's point, I just read in the people driving through water. There was a farmer who was driving home, got caught in the flood. His electric shorted out. He couldn't open his doors. He would drown if he if he didn't have his window down. I mean, the vehicles these days just aren't designed. Secondly, Mark Mitchell was here to be an Otahonga, and I wonder, given the whole review of regional council functions, whether we shouldn't get some kind of report from what we've done back through him, so that this is raised at cabinet level and they realise what we are capable of and why we're useful. So that's just a thought.
That's not meaning you're useful.
Okay, thanks, Ben. So then we've got Robbie, Jen, and Warren. Robbie.
Yeah, thank you. I've been up north a few times in the last 6 months, and it's actually interesting when you're going out to Mangawai, the just permanent hazard lights on those open areas with flooding, just to stop communities. So you can't proceed. It's flooded. How much you want to protect and the safest way possible of doing it. It's actually, I suppose we've got to have a really good think about how that's done in the future, and how, I suppose that's actually not our job. It's most probably your TAs, but we most probably have to give some of the monitoring systems to how those sort of things are activated as well. So I think there's a big discussion in that space of what's the best way going forward of keeping people safe. And it's, we can't afford to have people standing out there shutting roads down, because in those sort of scenarios, you're putting their lives in danger, and you also haven't got the people there to do it because they're out working somewhere else, like we had down at Or a couple of weeks ago when they tried to shut the Highway 26 down, and Higgins staff could turn up to keep our staff safe, so our staff had to actually be traffic managers to shut the gates. So we've got all these other issues that are going on out there. So I'm actually saying in resilience, we should actually have a hazard sign on 26 at the Poratahuna Road, stopping traffic going towards Poro as soon as the gates are activated.
Okay, thanks, Robbie.
No, but I haven't finished yet.
Oh.
That's just that point. The bit about adaptation, and I'd like to bring this up as a member of the Karakia committee, as I haven't got an issue with it. Then the thing is, I think after now working with Karakia and Kaiawa with the Wharekata Coast one, we've got some good learnings there now. And to keep people engaged, the process at the moment is way too long. So we've got to, now we've got the learnings. Wherever we go with next, we've got to design a system where we're preloaded with all the information. We know what we're going to have to require to do the resourcing we need to. We need to be able to come to our TAs and say, we need to get this over within 6 to 12 months, because otherwise you just can't keep those people engaged for that long. So that's the bit that we've got to work on in that space, because Rick's seen it, like the members are going, geez, if you can't give us a meeting every 2 months, it's hard to stay engaged. And now we haven't had a meeting for nearly 4 months, most probably. So
Okay.
you know where I'm coming from anyway.
Okay, thanks, Robbie.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that if I may.
A lot to swallow there.
Adaptation planning is led by the TAs and obviously supported by WRC. So the timing of Karakia's plan is determined partly by them, partly by the consultants that they've engaged to help them. We are building the plane while we're flying it. We are working through modelling tools, creating those tools for ready use in the future. But obviously, time frame that we've been working on hasn't necessarily meshed with Karakia's adaptation planning. We're nearly there. We've got pretty much calibrated. There is quite a bit of time and demand from communities to understand those models, to try and validate them and give us information. So yeah, the time taken is an issue. About 18 months when I look at adaptation planning. I do expect we can make that shorter, or we can support the shortening of that. One of the big benefits, I think, is that we've got the science information. We know exactly what is needed for these plans to be successful. So talking with the science policy function, they will be able to prepare that information in advance. So once the TA signal they want to start the program, we should be able to give them all of the information at the same time. So yeah, hopeful for the future. Certainly recognise the current quite challenging.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Jen.
Yeah, I could agree with Robbie and agree with Tipper earlier as well. The community expectations are rising, as a comment I keep seeing, but I wonder how we know that and what pace is the right pace. I don't know to that, because the TA, and while the TAs might be leading it, it is leading us to talk about this as quite a cost and time. But I want us to shift to a place where the TAs and us are totally hand in glove, delivering this stuff. And we have just learned over the past few years how to do this well. We have had somebody die on the weekend in an event. We know from Cyclone Gabrielle and hail that if it had just come down a Hauraki side, it would have been catastrophic. And we see Moa Point, which is an environmental catastrophe, where there's a lot of questions being asked of governance over the decades and recent, of whether the right investment was being made. And it keeps me up at night wondering whether we are doing this at the right pace. And we obviously, it's difficult because we're doing it with the TAs. Because at some point, some event happens and people are saying, why wasn't that community having an adaptation plan if Wharakawa has one? You know, and so we need to be really good in the next little while at getting this happening. And I worry about all the talk about the resourcing issues and right sizing it to fit. When I'm not sure that it's right. I need that certainty that we are clear of what the community is expecting and that we are going at that pace. So one thing I was just going to suggest is that, but looking at that figure 1 table you've got from which TAs are getting which kind of events, does seem to be some clustering there. And I wonder whether we really urge them to go in clusters rather than individually 11 times over. And get something joint happening there, because it'll be better use of our time than waiting and seeing when each one of the 11 is ready. But yeah, if we could address that in the next few workshops, and if we could address this at council, as Tipper mentioned, that would be really good, because it's a really important topic. And just changing, there's not enough in here when you say we have an LTP performance measure and target that we thought we were going to meet. And now again, this is my 3rd term, you know, like I've seen the delays in this topic over the last 2 terms, and it keeps happening. And now with events happening, we know that that is still an issue. So we just need to get this right and not just change targets. If we need to make it fit under a certain rates amount, we need to get it right.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Dave, respond or
I might give the floor to Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, look, I absolutely agree, and I think we are on the right track. I think we've identified some key data sets and processes to help speed up that adaptation process, and also to identify where within our region our higher risk areas are as well, so we can prioritise those. So we are definitely working on it. You know, in terms of resourcing, these events delay work. We have the same people doing the work and responding at the same time. That puts a lot of pressure on individuals and teams as well. So, we've been doing as much as we can to try and manage that with our current resourcing base. So, yeah, look, we're working as hard as we can. That's all I'm saying.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, obviously resourcing is a huge thing, and I think it's, as long as we're talking to the TAs, then that's our responsibility, and that's where it sits. They're going to move as quickly as they can. They've got rates capping now and that sort of thing, so they're going to try and work out where their investment is spent in that space. Obviously, no doubt we're going to get some calls from Waipawa and Otahonga, but also when you look at Mount Maunganui and what happened there and that sort of thing, people in the regions are going to be thinking about this a lot more. Just a quick question, Dave, with what we're seeing, and knowing the TAs employ their own consultants, and I saw it through the TCDC one, Wharakawa, Hauraki Plains and that, are we seeing them look to move away from funding external contractors and look more at us, which concerns me about our resourcing and cost, time, staff, etc.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, the requests always come through us first. That we're the first port of call for technical support. We have been as reactive as we can be. As Rick said, we've got a multiple number of hats to wear. So from time to time, we've had to say, no, sorry, we can't help. Hauraki are unique insofar as they've engaged Royal Haskening. When I've talked to the district councils, I've talked to all bar 2, they're all thinking in the same way, that they will end up engaging somebody externally to project manage. But the technical information will probably and primarily come from us, because we understand the hazards, we understand the flood modelling, flood infrastructure. We understand, the land. So, we are best placed to provide that information. So I think the consultant support will probably be just project management.
Yeah, and I wonder with reorganisation whether that's something that they could look at as Jen sort of picked up on with that clustering of things and efficiencies in that space using that desking, etc. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Warren. Okay, Gary.
Interesting month. Are there any red flags that leap out at you that you'd like to bring to the council's notice now as something very raw right now that could have been done better, or you need this, or you don't want that? Is there anything that you've identified?
We're as cognizant and frustrated that the work that we have identified hasn't been done, just because of our internal resourcing issues. This weighs quite heavily on us and personally as well, because we've had now the second fatality in 2 years in our region. So that's the big frustration for me. If we had the appropriate resourcing, we would have this information now.
Okay, I'll take Ben's question, and Brooks suggested we can go offline if we want to carry this on at some stage, but we really need to get the other part of the agenda finished. So Ben.
Oh, it's just through you, Mr. Chair, that the committee acknowledges the work of Rick, working long hours, and the team. Yeah, it's at 6:30 at night, sitting there and working through till midnight. Not easy.
Yeah. No, well said, Ben. We do appreciate it. Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll thank you guys, and we look forward to having further discussions.
Okay, very much.
So somebody move that you got those. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? No, carried. Okay, we'll move on to Joy and the Nature Implementation Plan update. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am between you and lunch and another committee meeting, so I will keep this short, sharp, and welcome any questions that you may have. I'm hopeful that you have had a chance to read the report and that you're comfortable with it in the main, but I would like to give you an official update on the Te Ako Toroa Nature Plus framework, which is Council's programme for delivering native positive outcomes, while also creating verified carbon returns where they can be reinvested into restoration. Key point is Nature Plus is progressing as intended. We are deliberately starting small, building systems and processes and confidence and knowledge, and reducing risk before we scale up. For those of you that haven't been here before and are not familiar with Nature Plus, it was approved by Council in May 2024 as a way to restore native habitat on Council-owned land and unlock new funding streams through carbon and potentially biodiversity credits. I'm very aware that this is quite a different topic as well from what we've just had, so I recognise it's a bit of a mind shift and a head shift, and we've gone very big and very wide and very sombre, and now this is much more kind of within the realms of WRC. Now, the implementation plan that has come about, we have turned it into a 5-stage process to keep it slick, keep it quick, and keep it very robust so that we can learn as we go. And I don't think I mentioned, but obviously the key point of Nature Plus is to increase biodiversity, improve water quality, and regenerate land wherever possible within our control. So I want to take you straight into phase 1, which we have called Carbon Returns from Neesville Road. This is a 178 hectare block up in the Waiho scheme area. It's purchased and retired from farming in the 80s. It's naturally regenerating bush and has been for decades. And we had a thought that there may be the opportunity that this could be a piece of land that we might be able to generate from. Note in the middle picture there, that's the Neesville block, the bottom half in blue. Said we think there may be up to 65 hectares that could be possible. As per councillor request, we went and submitted an ETS return, and we had it confirmed that there are actually 37 hectares of that 65 that are eligible. No planting is required. We just have to get it registered. The return, depending on sequestration rate and carbon price, which both fluctuate, could be anywhere between $9,000 and $12,000 a year, give or take, depending on the variance, which equates $9,000 to about dollars to about 2,000 small Manuka or Karakia plants. So it's not, we're not talking big bucks, but we're talking something that may be able to, we can use to elsewhere. This is low risk, low cost return from land that's already regenerating. And next steps for us is ETS registration, making sure all our accounting processes are in place, and then go for the returns. Once we hit the button for MPI to register this land officially, it'll take about 12 weeks. So this is our proof of concept. This is our dipping our toe in the water, and this is us trying to understand what the actual physical process is. Phase 2, another opportunity that we have. Ryan's block and Koiti land block, both again up in the Waiho scheme area. They are forestry blocks that we've had for a while, and due to them being pre-1990 forest and an MPI initiative award scheme, we were gifted 8,700 units in recognition for us to leave this land as it is, and there is no future value in it except for what we are doing currently on the land, and that it stays as a forestry block. Now, they are fully verified, they are already registered, and they are available to us to sell as we wish, when we wish, depending on the price that we want to pay or we gain for them, and for what we actually want to use that return for. It's all about timing. Don't have to sell them, can sell it in little bits. But again, this is another opportunity for council to learn how to do this and how to be a responsible market participant. So this isn't about speculation. This is just about, okay, we've got this. How might we want to use it and in what manner? So this is phase 2. So phase 1 is about putting something into the ETS. Phase 2, we've got the opportunity of having something in there. How do we use it? And then phase 3, okay, so we think we're beginning to understand what this is about. Are there any other opportunities that we have across all of our WRC land? So the picture in front of you is just for illustrative purposes, but it just shows a couple of plots of land, parcels of land that we have around our region. And we are doing a methodical desktop assessment at this point of what might have credit potential, what is the restoration feasibility as part of that, what are the costs, risks, and long-term obligations. Really important to note, this piece of work is only for on hectarage above 5 hectares, and that it is not in a flood protection zone. So obviously that starts to reduce the opportunities. We are also using this to hopefully create a little pipeline of potential restoration opportunities. And we also want to use it to preempt if we get future land. Is there something we can use this process to help us think about the utilization of that land differently? It may help us with conversations with landowners who might be thinking about this. So it's arming us with knowledge, experience, because it is complex, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Oh yeah, no. Baseline assessment is expected around the end of March, and then we are going to do a very robust internal review after that before we bring you the actual opportunities. And then phase 4 and 5, obviously, if we do all of this and we're comfortable and we tick all the boxes and you're comfortable, we're comfortable, and we are doing positive stuff with this, then it gives us a product that we can share as a credible source to other landowners, to other partners, gives us the opportunity to just see what we are able to do. And then With the emerging biodiversity credit market, we know that there are trials underway. We've got Mungo Totally just down the road that is demonstrating biodiversity credits. We would like to get into that, but we recognize it's complex. We want to tick all of these boxes, get all our financial processes in place, make sure we know everything well, and then see what else we can do. Now, that is me absolutely accelerating through phases 1 to 5, because I don't want to keep from your food for too long. That's me. Any questions that anyone has?
Okay, thanks, Joy and Jen's first off the break.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. I love your work. Yeah, just wanted to be the one to move receipt of the paper, and obviously would want to wait until the carbon price is a bit higher from where it's created at the moment. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jen and Tipper, and then Gary, and then Warren.
Happy to second the report. Thank you for the work. Probably some considerations. Noting where the land is, so it doesn't directly affect my constituency, but on behalf of Kataroina, even the scheme land within the Waiho-Piako catchments was considered for treaty settlement. So just noting that that purpose that could be still applied. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's a great project, but I just note that. Are we preparing any care groups beyond ourselves to become the carers of these whenua as we exit an active role of managing them, if they're going to become sequestering carbon kind of places? And do Kairoa, how would they seek access to these council locations for the purpose of harvesting rongoa? Thank you.
What it says is one of the key things after coming up next is to set up an internal governance group, just a small group, and to make sure we think about every single one of these points, and that we've got a robust plan, and that it is all written in a way that whatever, whoever we are, 10, 20, 50 years, it is all accounted for. Because obviously these are around for long.
Totally appreciate the work, but I do not know that there will be a layer of cultural information that's not being disclosed now. Happy to help.
No, I appreciate
Happy to
that.
help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tipper. Thanks, Joy. Gary, and then Warren, and then Robbie.
Yeah, look, I actually question what we're doing here in this space. Why are we trying to get involved in the carbon market and look at the returns in even over 10 years, it just seems to be minuscule, and I doubt it would cover your salary. And so there doesn't seem to be an economic return, and I'm not sure from a regional council, I'm not even sure there's a rational return, a rational reason to be into this market. And yeah, so I really question what we're doing with carbon, and just doesn't seem to stack up.
Okay, thanks, Warren. It's probably not something you wanted because you're commissioned to do the work. So this is something that we inherited.
But I say that obviously any other revenue that we can generate that can help with restoration and take some burden off that is what we're trying to do. So yeah, this isn't about being kind of as big as we possibly can in the market and being a player. It's just utilizing the land that we have and the opportunity just to assist financial prosperity wherever we can. But totally take the point that we don't want to be a big player, and it is complex.
Okay, thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Chair. Joy, any just looking for timeframes across these phases? You got any
So
indication?
Neesville Road credit, we are
Yep.
literally in the final stages before we press the button to register. Literally, we're just literally following MPI process. So that's imminent. Neesville phase 2, so the NZUs we already have, we can sell them now, but I want to make sure the process is set up properly, that we can make informed decisions of when we sell, how much we sell, and what we're reinvesting. So I would like to think that will be by end of June this year, that we will have a lot of this understood. Phase 3, the mapping is literally almost complete, kind of, but I'm very, very cognizant of doing a proper field assessment to make sure that our knowledge is brand truthed, because I don't want to create an opportunity if it's not, and I don't want to miss an opportunity if there's there. So that I've said end of June, but again, it'll depend on what comes available. And then 4 and 5 will be when we are more confident that we can create a biodiversity scheme for Karakia, because that is one area we would like to do that. So we've done a lot of baselining, but to set the actual credit scheme up is difficult. Well, not difficult. We have to have a reason for attracting finance for that. And then the mapping exercise, that will depend on what opportunities come up and what additional funding, because the key thing, as you'll be aware, is to take, if we have to do additionality in planting, then the financial model is we have to pay the setup costs, and then the credits come later. So that'll take a little bit longer as we work through that.
So with the Neville, etc., when would a decision come back to this council to whether we invest in this type of investment or not?
I'm
just looking at our governance oversight.
Yep.
On this. Yes, we've asked for the work to be done. Yes, we have some potential areas that can be put into the ETS scheme and that sort of thing. Surely the final decision is a governance one.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm just looking at when that comes to us.
So
Okay,
as Joy said, she's just doing some final analysis and getting some final information, and then a paper will come to council. That's why it's been brought here today, to get your feedback. What else do you need so that we can have a go, no go decision from councillors?
Thanks for that. So Robbie, and then Gary M, and Ben.
Yeah, so those 3 blocks were purchased for under the soil conservation, originally to protect the White House scheme. So only issue I got, it really needs to be clear that ratepayers have invested into that land, and now you're saying we'll take that out of there and we'll allow everybody to share in that pool, where that land was only purchased to protect the scheme, and any income from it was to be invested back into the scheme. So I think that needs to be whatever happens here, that has to be looped, that it can't, or someone's got to make some decision that a lot of landowners will be pissed off about. But I can understand the one up near Thames, it's reverting. I haven't got an issue with it. These other 2 are pine plantations, which give direct income every 25 to 29 years back into the schemes. And the scheme every time invests back into planting them. So I think when you come back to us, whatever your outcomes are of what the value is to put into a carbon credit and a biodiversity, there must be what this is going to, the return investment on the pine trees, and let us make a decision. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
May I just
sure.
respond? 100%. I should have said that our intention, our philosophy is to make sure that any money came out of one scheme goes back into that scheme. 100%. That is what our preference would be. And secondly, regarding the pine forests, because of the way they would get issued with the units, we can, the forests don't, I'm going to just read this verbatim. The forests don't have to remain as exotic forests. You can clear the forest and re-establish it with indigenous species. There will not be a deforestation liability, as the land meets the required forest stocking and growth threshold. So you can.
There's already some we're doing that too anyway. There's another one up near Thames that's too steep to put in pine trees. So Kenny was replanting that with natives. So that's already happening.
Yeah. And that's why Kenny was part of the team.
Good point there, Robbie. Gary. Was that you? Okay, so Ben.
Oh, I just want to say I support this. This is a market mechanism, and $435,000 is not to be sneezed at. And this is a pilot to actually make sure that works. And hopefully then we can start to advise other landowners, farmers or whoever, so that this takes off. So I think it's a great idea compared with just asking for money, we're giving it back.
And I think it allows us to be a credible, trusted source, and to help people to kind of navigate the process without necessarily having to spend a lot of money on other. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Karen, you want to say something? Oh, she's making a lot of animation here. so thanks for that, Joy. And I actually reiterate what Robbie's concerned about, is that with the possibility of forming CCOs, we need to tidy this up totally. Oh, you want to?
Yeah, because it's actually bring up a really interesting point there. I'd imagine this is going to come up in the subcommittee meeting next month in Harraki to purchase the block of land down at Paddy Tonga, where there is huge biodiversity outcomes down there. And yet we're talking about buying it and we haven't even discussed that. When I've spoken to Emily up in Wurianga, the zone manager, she said there's huge biodiversity outcomes you could get out of that. Yet when we're purchasing, we haven't even talked about it. It's just, we're looking at spending $400,000 odd purchasing this block of land because it's got a stock bank on that shouldn't be there. And we want to use that material to build a stock bank up. Then we could retire it or give it to iwi or whatever we want to do with it. And this sort of measurement hasn't even been valued in buying that property.
Okay, well, good point. Okay, so hey, Joy, thanks for that, and thanks for keeping it brief. And we will look forward to lunch on and think of you at the same time. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll get somebody to move. It's all done.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Oh, I see. What?
Put your glasses on.
I have no idea what's going on here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So in terms of the, it's been moved and there's a report, the nature implementation plan update be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? No. Carried.
Right, we've got two more things.
Okay, the next one is Karen.
Thank you. I'm not going to keep you. Here is a work plan on page 44 of your agenda. I'll take the report as read and it's based on the terms of reference. It ensures that we touch on all the issues that you've indicated to date you're interested in and ensures that we cover the terms of reference. And actually, by the end of this, we will have a full program of work that feeds in to what we're learning from the government about their adaptation legislation and how we can provide information that will feed then into our spatial strategy. So there is very important work to be done around this table. I won't ask you to comment on the proposed work plan now, but invite you just to send me an email so we can update it. It will be a living document because things change, priorities change, as with storms, etc. So keep talking about that and we'll make sure that we meet your needs. So look forward to your feedback on the work plan and we will deliver.
Excellent. Any questions, comments?
Happy to move the report, Mr. Chair, but also just to support Karen by giving some expectations. I guess where do we want to be at the end of the triennium? It's with a really strong, well, I'm calling it a BIM, to whoever replaces us in the role about where these settings are, the networks achieved and the stakeholder management or coordination we've been able to cause or facilitate. I think that's probably our closest thing to endpoints, but moku e tēnei, thank you for the work, and to Tarek and the team.
Okay, thanks, Tipper. I've got her as moved. Noel,
I've got a question if I can.
yeah, no, you take the question.
SIDF was mentioned in the report by Dave earlier, but it wasn't discussed. Robbie and I had a quick chat, and this is without consulting with him. I'm concerned about the silos in this organisation, and SIDF has come up in this committee. SIDF has a huge impact. The project that it was put over was an abject failure, and those are my concerns at the moment, and I'm waiting with interest of the report. It comes to ICM shortly, but it's about policy and process, so that should be in strategy and policy. So by not having people involved in different committees, I know I'm taking the opportunity to be here today to listen. I'm concerned about the silos and not the cross-pollination.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, Noel, and it is there to so that we can follow the process. So, Karen.
Noel, just for your background, really, that report that was provided by Dave and the team was a context setting. And that was just to say, in our program, not our program of work, not this committee, in Dave's program of work, the SIDF was part of that. And it noted that this will be reported into the appropriate place so that the learnings can be captured. But this is, CIDIF is not part of this work program. It was there just as context.
Okay, I appreciate that, Karen. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll get someone to second that the report received. Thanks, Jen. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, no, carried. Thank you for that. So we've come to the end. Thanks, everybody. It's been a bit longer than it should have been, but it's been a very productive meeting. And ask Karen for the closing karakia.
Ona hea mai te uru tapa nui, kia wātea, kia mama, te nakau, te tinana, te hinanaro, I te ara takatu, koe rā e rongo, e whakairea ake ki ronga, e tina, homie, huie, taiki.
Thank you. So officially close the meeting and welcome you to lunch.
Thank you, councillors.